Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us on our Salesforce Sales Cloud module training. For those of you joining us for the first time or hearing about Salesforce for the first time, Salesforce is a CRM, which is pretty much a central database that is used by a lot of different companies to store their information. Salesforce is actually used by small companies with 1 to 2 employees, to medium companies, to enterprise and technology Goliaths such as Facebook, Amazon, Google, and so many more. It's actually a place to store contact information and your pipeline as well. But Salesforce also has many different modules to do many different things, including marketing and services. But today we're going to mainly focus on Sales Cloud. So without further ado, let's get started. So first, we're going to jump quickly into a basic Salesforce history to talk about where Salesforce started and how it came into play. Then we're going to talk about Sales Cloud basics. This includes out-of-the-box objects that come in Salesforce: campaigns and leads, accounts and contacts, opportunities. And we'll also talk about some of the out-of-the-box Salesforce features, which makes it very powerful to use, especially without the knowledge of coding. So, with Salesforce history, it was actually founded in 1999 by a gentleman with the name of Mark Benioff. He is actually their current CEO. So he founded it in his room and has been working to grow it into being the #1 CRM in the world right now. Their biggest strength was having it on cloud versus its competitors who were on-premise. So Mark Benioff has been able to actually create a lot of different clouds to track a lot of different information. So if you look at the cloud on the right hand side, so today we are talking about Sales Cloud. So this focuses on a lead to a won opportunity. But we also have what's called Service Cloud. This focuses on customer retention, cases, and solutions. We will actually be doing a training video on services as well. There's also the Marketing Cloud, which is the top of the pipeline before lead, when we nurture the leads to bring them into our Salesforce org to start selling to them. We have Community Cloud, which is again more like customer retention, but it can also be used as an employee database. Think of it as an intranet where employees can come in to submit cases as well as read about their products and become more knowledgeable. Wave Analytics focuses on their reporting. So reporting and dashboards is actually out-of-the-box functionality in Salesforce, but Wave Analytics takes it a step further and makes it even more powerful. And App Cloud is your mobile app where you're able to use Salesforce on the go. They've actually recently also had Integration Cloud, which is pretty much using the Salesforce to integrate with any other system. At the moment, Salesforce actually has 8.39 billion USD revenue. This data is from 2017, but you can only imagine how it has grown throughout the years. This means that we've actually created a little bit over 27 million jobs worldwide. Now keep in mind, it doesn't necessarily mean there's going to be 27 million jobs working at Salesforce itself. It actually means companies are using Salesforce and they need people like Salesforce admins to manage their system, or Salesforce BAs, Salesforce developers, all the way up to Salesforce architect. Salesforce architects are people who know anything and everything about Salesforce, and they actually solution out how to implement Salesforce altogether. Now let's kind of start looking into some of the basics of Salesforce Sales Cloud. Now, as we look into these different objects, we'll actually be switching between the PowerPoint and the actual Salesforce org. So you'll actually be able to have a at-hand look at what Salesforce looks like and what these objects do and what they look like. So starting with the campaign, campaigns are pretty much any of your marketing efforts. So this is where you track all the efforts made by your marketing team. So whether it's emails, webinars, trade shows, print ads, whatever the case may be, this campaign helps us to track what marketing is doing to bring in brand new leads or brand new prospects. So now, you've been hearing the word leads often. What leads are pretty much your potential prospects. These are people that are potentially interested in buying your product. Most of these leads are in the market looking for either what your company does, but maybe with slightly something different. Or so they're in the market looking for to solve a problem, and your company is going to come in to solve that problem. But keep in mind, your company does have competitors, so there will be competitors that come into play as well. So leads are not necessarily people that are only interested in your products, they're more interested in solving a problem. These leads actually get converted to an account, a contact, and an opportunity. At this point, they're still interested in your product, but they're a little bit more interested and they're a little bit more invested in the sense of they want to hear more and learn more about your product, but again, they can also be negotiating with the competitor. So now let's go back to our Salesforce org and let's take a look at these different objects that we just touched on. Now, this is the home page of Salesforce for those of you joining us for the first time. Keep in mind, with anything and everything in Salesforce, it is 100% customizable. So this home page, I can add different components and I can remove components as well. For example, we have today's events and today's task at the very bottom. I can actually move this to the top so that's a little bit more visible. Same with recent records. It's all the way at the bottom right here. I can have on the side, which means it is a lot more accessible. So I'm not going to do anything in that sense. I'm actually going to leave it as it is because right now we're going to focus on campaigns and leads first. So we're going to click on the campaigns tab, and as you can see, at the moment there are no campaigns here. So I'm going to create a brand new campaign. So let's call it webinar for today's date. Alright, I'm going to make this an active webinar, and because it's a webinar, I'm going to track it as a webinar type. So this is what I'm doing right here is I'm filling in the add the box field in Salesforce. So one thing I do want to call out, I haven't made any changes, I haven't done any customization. So these are actual fields that come in Salesforce for the campaign object when you first open it. The start date is when the webinar is going to start, so it's going to be today, and it's going to end today as well, and we're expecting to get a revenue of about, let's say, $10,000. And the marketing team or the company itself has spent about $2,000 in getting this webinar going. So whether it's getting the content written, whether it's setting up the webinar, the go-to meeting, etc., etc. Now, keep in mind, you don't necessarily have to use all these fields just because they come out of the box. Just like the home page component, you can actually remove fields and you can add more custom fields on these webinars as well, on these campaigns rather as well. So for example, if you wanted something called, so right now we're tracking start date, but let's say we actually wanted to track start date and time as well, we can actually add what's called a custom field and replace it with the standard field right here. Now again, we're not going to do that customization just yet. What we're going to do is just look at a campaign, leads out of the box. So I'm going to save this campaign right now. And here's the campaign record itself. This is the record that we just created. So as you can see, these are related lists. A related list are a list of records that are related to the campaign. A campaign hierarchy is pretty much if this campaign, for example, had parent campaigns. So in a real life situation, most companies will have a webinar parent campaign, and all the webinars that are happening throughout the year will be under that campaign. So that way, the executives of marketing, like a VP of marketing or a chief marketing officer, can jump in and see how is the webinar campaign doing altogether, but they can also dive in and see how is the webinar that happened on April 15th doing as well. This gives them an idea of should they be investing more money in campaigns or not. Attachments are pretty straightforward. If you want to upload any files, you can just upload it right here. Now opportunities are opportunities that come into play from this webinar. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. In terms of campaign members, what that is pretty much people that come to Salesforce or that are involved in this campaign from a customer perspective, or sorry, a prospect perspective. So these are people that have attended this webinar, and again, they're can be people that are interested in your product, or it can be people that are just sitting in the webinar because they want to learn or get some information. So there may be all sorts of people in there. Not everyone is going to be interested in your product. So now we're going to go to Leads tab right here, and we're going to create a brand new lead. So we're going to create Mr. Bruce Wayne. Of Wayne Enterprise. And the information here is going to be slightly different now because we're actually creating a person. So as you can see, it's not going to have a start date, it's not going to have an end date, and it's not going to have active fields. It is going to have information like phone number, email, the title of the person. So this could be what they do. So I'm going to make this person as CEO. Lead source is where how the person came into play. So for example, let's say this person just called us and they were interested, and we referred them to the webinar, and that's how they are in our Salesforce instance right now. Now you can actually make this list much longer, or you can actually remove some of the options here as well. You can actually add a field called active to say that this is an active lead. But Salesforce actually gives us a lead status field, which helps us track where this lead is. So I'm going to save this lead record right now as it is. And as you can see, it comes to the related list again, but it has slightly different information. So this is called the activity, which again we'll take a look a little bit later in this training. As you can see, the statuses are at the top. So this person, we put him in as open, not contacted, but we were saying that this person actually contacted us saying that he was interested in our product or looking for a similar product in the market. So we're going to mark him as working, and I'm going to mark it as the current status. Now let's say the webinar happens. What this person does is, let's say we call them actually. We say, hey Mr. Wayne, hope you entered the webinar. What do you think? Do you think you want to see a demo of our product? And he goes, you know what? Yeah, I kind of do. I think your product can solve my issues, but you know what? I'm not 100% sure. Let's see a demo, and I'm actually going to have some of my other stakeholders in there so they can ask a few questions to make sure that you guys are 100% fit. So we're going to say, okay, perfect. So the conversion can happen at any point. It doesn't necessarily happen at a second conversation, or it doesn't necessarily happen at a demo. So it varies from company to company. But for our example, we're going to say that anytime we have a demo, there's going to be a conversion of a lead from an account to a contact to an opportunity. So I'm going to press select converted status because I'm going to convert this person, and then convert them to an account. What account's going to happen is going to look at the company field and pull that in. I'm going to create a contact, so it's going to create Mr. Boone as a contact now, and he's no longer going to be a lead. And we have the option to create as an opportunity as well. So we don't necessarily have to do it, but we are going to in this case. Just backtracking to contact, what this means is, compared to a lead for example, is this person is a bit more interested in our product. We are actually at a selling point now, and that's where we're creating an opportunity. So Salesforce actually does a good job between defining that pipeline of a lead who's at the very top of the pipeline to a contact who's a little bit more further down into the pipeline. Now, as you can see, there's an option to choose an existing account. So let's say Wayne Enterprises existed as an account, we can actually choose Wayne Enterprises here rather than creating a brand new account. And that's what you want to do. You don't want to create Wayne Enterprises as an account every time somebody from the Wayne Enterprises come and contacts us. We want to make sure that they're under the same account record so that we keep all that information together. So I'm going to press convert, and I'm actually going to go back to our PowerPoint to continue through to the next slide. So if you can remember, when we converted our lead, we did create accounts and contacts. Now accounts are companies that you're doing business with. So it's still, if we look at our actual lead, Mr. Bruce Wayne, Wayne Enterprise is the account that we're doing business with. So in our example, we're trying to sell to Wayne Enterprises. Now that's a B2B model where we're selling to a business, but there are cases where it's a B2C model. So for example, if you work at a hotel, it'll be a B2C model because you're not necessarily selling to a business itself, but rather you're selling to the person. So that's a B2C model here. A contact are the people that you're doing business with. So we're not looking at necessarily the company anymore, we're looking at the individuals. So in this case, Mr. Bruce Wayne, who is the CEO. A contact must be related to an account, or he can actually be related to multiple accounts, and they will be related to an opportunity to be identified as to what role they play in that opportunity. So they can be a decision maker, they can be an influencer. So there's different roles. We'll take a look at the roles that are available when we get to the opportunity tab. Just to mention a couple of things in accounts and contacts. Accounts, for our B2C model, we actually have to enable what's called person accounts. So person accounts is not out of the box in the sense that it doesn't come enabled in Salesforce when you first open it. You actually have to create a case with Salesforce support and they will enable it for you, but the fields are going to be out of the box once it is enabled. When you enable person accounts, you're not going to have contacts attached to a person account. A person account is going to be the contact itself. So for example, if we're selling to Bruce Wayne only, Bruce Wayne will become the person account. We're not going to have Bruce Wayne and then a contact underneath that saying Bruce Wayne. That doesn't really make sense in a sense of a business model. So that's something to keep in mind. So we're going to go back to our Salesforce org. As you can remember, we did convert our lead. So it's just a success message saying that we've converted this lead and we created an account, a contact, and an opportunity. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on the Wayne Enterprise account record. So very similar layout to the campaign. We're going to see all our related lists. We're going to see our activities tab on the side, which again we'll talk about a little bit later. And our details is where all the information reside. If you can remember, we didn't really input a whole lot of information. We just put the enterprise account name, so that's the only thing that's here. We can actually edit the information if we wanted to. So for example, we can actually edit this to say www.wayneent.com, because let's say we have this information now. We can of course add any more information, and just like campaigns and leads, you can add more fields or you can take away different fields. As you can see, there's a lot of fields that come out of the box. Related list, an account is going to have different things that are related to it compared to a campaign. The account is going to have its contact, it's still going to have an opportunity, it's going to have a quote, contract, prices, it's going to have so many different things that's related to it. We're not going to necessarily tackle everything today. Like I had mentioned in our agenda, we're just going to tackle account contacts, opportunities, as well as activities at the very end. So here's our details, and we're going to go back to related lists. We're actually going to select Bruce Wayne, and here we go. So Bruce Wayne is the contact that we had created. He is the CEO, so he is necessarily at the top of the line. But keep in mind, just because he's at the top of the line doesn't necessarily mean that he is going to be a decision maker. Let's say we sell a financial product, the CEO might not be the decision maker, it might be the CFO who's going to make that final decision because he knows what product he needs to get his jobs done. Just like the account and campaigns, we're going to have related lists for contact as well, and we're going to have a detail session as well. So again, the information that we have filled out on the lead section has pushed over. So the company name has become the account name, the title has become the title here, which is CEO, the name of course is right here. And again, you can start adding more information if you want on the right hand side or the left hand side. We can add more fields or we can take away different fields as well. Now before we go into opportunities, I just want to go back to the tab or rather PowerPoint, and with the dollar signs you can kind of tell that opportunities is the money maker. That's what defines the deals that we're working on that we're going to have and we're going to try to sell. So with opportunities, there are things like price books and products that are attached to it. So price books is pretty much you can have different prices set for different persons or different companies you're selling. So for example, you can have a set price for the North American companies you're selling versus the Europe countries you're selling. And so that just means that when you select that price book, the preset prices for those price books are going to get populated. Products are the products that you're selling from your company. So some companies might sell one product, where other companies might sell multiple products. So we'll take a look at that in our Salesforce org. So I'm going to navigate to campaigns. I'm actually going to navigate from here, and I'm actually going to click on campaigns, opportunities right here. So very similar setup to a lead in the sense that your related lists are here, your details is here, but you also have an opportunity stage at the top. So we're going to actually start with adding a product first. So we're going to click right here, and we're going to go choose a price book. So remember, I'm going to choose the standard price book that's in Salesforce. So I'm saying all my customers are going to get the standard price book value. So it's not going to be difference in prices, but if you had different price books, it will open up in this drop down right here. So I'm going to save this price book, and now I'm going to start adding products. So I told Salesforce which prices to look at, and I'm going to add an Apple MacBook Pro, and I'm going to add the UK keyboard, and let's say I'm going to add a CPU as well. So as you can see, there are already set prices. We also have product code set as well as product family. These are all preset in Salesforce. They're pretty out of the box, but we can upload our own products when the time comes to sell. So we're going to save this, press next. Again, these are the sale prices. We're going to put in the quantity, but we can also actually give discounts as well. So for example, let's say like I'm actually going to throw in the keyboard for free because this customer is actually buying a lot of product from us. I'm going to put $0. This is the date is when we're adding these products in, and we can put in a description of what our product is. So we can say this is discounted because of the package, of a package that we are selling in our company. So I'm going to save this. So one thing if you notice is this amount field gets actually populated with these total right here. So $1,000 plus $100 gives us our $1,100. We're expecting about $110 revenue on this. This is based on the probability, which is the stage of the opportunity itself, and the calculation in the back end. Just like account and contacts, you can see that there are some fields right here that are pre-populated from our lead information, like the lead source, whereas others are left empty, which we'll track throughout our sales process. To track our sales process, we get this opportunity stage. So let's say Wayne Enterprise is still prospecting, they're still trying to get some information. That's going to be the first stage. But let's say we're at a point where we need to know who the final person is, who says, okay guys, we're going to make this, we're going to buy this product or not. So we are going to identify our decision maker. So when we select that, we would, at a point where we're identifying who our CFO is, as per example. So we already have Bruce Wayne as our primary contact, but we can actually add more contacts if we wanted to. So I would actually come here and I'd actually add more contacts here. So right here, I can pull in John Smith. He actually works at a different company, but let's say he does come into this company as a CFO on a part-time basis. I can say this guy is a decision maker. Let's call him the economic decision maker, and we're going to save. The reason we track all this information is that, so let's say me as a salesperson who's been working this deal decides to leave the company because I've found a different job. Somebody needs to come and take over this opportunity because this is a really good opportunity. We're at a point where we're potentially going to close this. So at that point, whoever's coming in wants to make sure he or she is able to take the conversation from where it's left off. So it was left off as identifying the decision maker. So when the new person comes in, they look at my opportunity and they're like, oh, hey, we identified the decision maker. So I can call John Smith and be like, hey, John, I'm going to be your new selling guy because our old one has left the company. So we'll be going through different stages in Salesforce opportunity to track where this opportunity is going. let's go back to our PowerPoint just to talk about some of the little features that Salesforce gives us out of the box to make the job easier. Starting with the opportunity teams, these are the people that are selling within the opportunity. So remember, we had contact roles identifying who our contacts are in terms of Bruce Wynn being the CEO and John Smith being our decision maker. But opportunity teams are the people that are involved in selling your product. So of course, there's going to be a salesperson. Maybe there's going to be a solution engineer who's going to kind of solution the product to fit our customers' needs. Just to make little tweaks and things over here and there. Maybe there's going to be a marketing person involved that's going to give white paper or reading materials to our potential customer. So this is to track who's involved in selling an opportunity so that when there's a similar opportunity in the pipeline, we know who needs to be involved. Workflows are a great automation tool. They work using if-then statements and automate your process with point-to-click. So you don't need to be a programmer to use Salesforce to do some great automations. You just need to know how to use a mouse and how to use a computer overall. Activities, we've been mentioning activities throughout our different object. So all our objects will have an activity, all our standard objects for sure, and our custom objects is the decision is on you who's going to be building out the custom objects. So with activities, there's tasks and events. Look at tasks as your to-do list and look at events as meetings that you can potentially have. We again want to track this in Salesforce so that whoever's taking over or whoever's reading into that account opportunity, they're able to know what kind of conversations we're having. So maybe if the director of sales comes in and he wants to know what's going on with Wayne Enterprises, rather than wasting your time maybe with a half an hour meeting, they're actually able to go in here and saying, hey, we had this different events and we had these things done for this account, so this is actually moving really well. Or if they don't see any activities at all, they're like, okay, what's going on? And then they can have a conversation with you. So it is very important to track everything in Salesforce. News is a very little unique feature that's only available in Lightning. This shows any news about your customer or your potential clients so that you kind of keep it in the loop. So let's say an investor has invested a lot of money in your company. You're able to see that now these guys have a little bit more of a budget to spend. You don't necessarily bring that up in conversation, but you can say, hey, you can try to upsell them at that point. Or let's say that their revenue was really great for a year over year. You can also congratulate them so they know that you're a bit more invested in this, not just for selling, but actually to build a relationship. So again, this is just Salesforce Sales Cloud out of the box. We also have courses on Service Cloud and Marketing Cloud as well. So if you guys are interested, definitely check those out. But we're going to dive a little bit more into Sales Cloud on how to customize it and some of the other features that are available straight out of the box.